I'm 78 years old, and this is the first time I'm saying these things out loud without trying to make them sound better than they were. Most mornings now are quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own breathing and wonder how many of those you've got left. I sit at the small table by the window with my coffee going cold, watching people walk dogs, hurry to work, live their lives like time is an endless thing. I used to believe that too. I didn't lose everything in one big disaster. That's the part people misunderstand. There was no explosion, no single moment where everything collapsed. What I lost happened slowly, so slowly, that I kept telling myself nothing was really wrong. I was a reasonable man. That's what I always told myself. In my 20s and 30s, I made choices that made sense on paper. I worked hard. I showed up. I paid the bills. I believed that being responsible was the same thing as being present. I didn't chase wild dreams. I didn't gamble. I didn't disappear. I stayed. I just postponed. I postponed phone calls. I postponed apologies. I postponed saying what I felt because there was always tomorrow, always next weekend, always after things settled down. They never did. Back then, my days had a rhythm. Wake up early, commute, coffee that tasted like nothing, meetings that blurred together. I told myself this was adulthood. This was what men did. I came home tired, not just in my body, but in my patience. Conversations became shorter. Listening felt like work. I'd nod while already thinking about the next thing I had to handle. There were moments, small ones, where I felt something slipping. A look that lasted a second too long. A silence that felt heavier than it should have. I noticed them. I just didn't stop for them. I assumed they'd wait for me. That's one of the most dangerous beliefs a person can have. I remember thinking more than once, I'll deal with that later. Later became years. Years became distance. Nothing dramatic announced the cost. Relationships don't usually break with a loud sound. They thin out. They fade. They become polite. You stop arguing not because things are better, but because you've both stopped expecting anything to change. I didn't feel lonely back then. Not really. I felt busy, useful, needed. Those feelings can disguise a lot. They can keep you from asking questions you're afraid to answer. It wasn't until much later, much too late, that I realized how much of my life I'd spent preparing for a future I never fully arrived at. I kept telling myself I was building something solid. What I didn't notice was what I was quietly trading away in the process. Time doesn't warn you when it's collecting interest. It just keeps taking notes. And one day, you wake up older than you expected to be sitting in a quiet room, realizing that the things you thought you were delaying were the very things that made life feel like life. That's where I'm speaking from now. Not to be understood, not to be forgiven, just to finally be honest about how this really unfolded. When I look back, I don't see a reckless man. That's what makes this harder to accept. I see someone careful, someone trying to do the right thing in the ways he understood at the time. I believed stability was love. I believed consistency could replace attention. I believed showing up physically was enough, even when my mind was somewhere else entirely. In my 30s, I told myself I was in the middle of things. Middle of my career, middle of my responsibilities. Middle meant there was plenty of room ahead. I didn't feel old. I felt temporary, like this version of me was just passing through on the way to a better one. The one who'd have more time, more patience, more clarity. I kept that promise to myself for decades. There were invitations I declined because I was tired. Conversations I shortened because I didn't have the energy. Moments I felt but didn't name because naming them would have required stopping. And stopping felt dangerous. Like if I paused, everything would fall apart. So I kept moving. I remember sitting at the dinner table answering questions with half sentences. I remember thinking I was being efficient. I didn't realize I was teaching people how little of me they could expect. That's something no one tells you. You train others in how to treat you even when you don't mean to. The losses didn't arrive with pain at first. They arrived as absences. Someone stopped calling as often. Someone else stopped asking. I noticed, but I assumed it was normal. People grow, lives change. That's what I said. What I didn't say was that I was relieved sometimes. Relieved not to explain myself. Relieved not to feel behind. Relieved not to confront the quiet discomfort that came up when things slowed down. Years passed like that. Whole seasons I barely remember. I remember schedules better than I remember faces, deadlines better than laughter. I told myself memories would come later when things calmed down. They didn't. The turning point didn't feel cinematic. No dramatic speech, no clear lesson delivered in a single moment. It was a phone call, short, careful, the kind of call where you can tell the other person has practiced what they're about to say. After it ended, I sat alone longer than usual, not shocked, just aware. A heavy awareness that something irreversible had happened, not all at once, but finally. Something had closed. That's when the past stopped feeling distant. It rushed back in fragments. Missed chances, words unsaid, times I'd chosen later instead of now. I could see the pattern clearly for the first time, and there was no one else to blame. That's the part no one prepares you for. Regret isn't loud. It's steady. It doesn't yell. It sits with you. It keeps you company. And once it arrives, it doesn't leave. I'm not telling this story because I think it makes me wise. I'm telling it because I wish someone had told it to me when I still believed time was something I could manage. It isn't. It only ever moves one way. The last few years have been quieter than I ever imagined they would be. Not dramatic, just reduced. Fewer calls, fewer reasons to check the calendar, days that stretch without shape. I used to fear boredom. Now I understand it wasn't boredom. I was afraid of it was stillness. Because stillness makes you face what you've been avoiding. There are things that can't be fixed anymore. Not because I didn't try hard enough at the end, but because the end doesn't accept late arrivals. Some doors only open once. Some people only wait so long. Time isn't cruel about it. It's just indifferent. I've had plenty of hours to think. That's one thing old age gives you, whether you want it or not. And what I've learned isn't complicated. It's just uncomfortable. I thought responsibility would earn me closeness later. I thought loyalty to work would translate into loyalty from people. I thought silence was safer than saying the wrong thing. What I didn't understand was that absence teaches people how to live without you, quietly, successfully, permanently. I don't blame my younger self as much as I used to. He was trying. He was scared. He believed what he'd been taught, that being useful mattered more than being present. That providing was a substitute for showing up emotionally. That love could be implied. It can't. If I'm speaking to you now, it's not to tell you what to do. I don't believe in that anymore. Everyone has their own version of later, their own reasons, their own fears dressed up as responsibility. I'll only tell you what I wish I'd understood earlier. The moments that feel small are usually the ones that matter. The conversation you almost skip, the pause you rush through, the call you think can wait. Those are the places where life actually happens. You won't remember most of what you worked so hard to maintain. You will remember who was there when you finally slowed down and who wasn't. If this story means anything to you, you don't need to do anything about it. You don't need to change your life today. Just notice where you're postponing yourself. That's enough. As for me, I've made my peace with what's left. Not in a proud way, just an honest one. I wake up, I sit by the window, I let the day be what it is. I don't pretend there's endless time anymore. There isn't. And knowing that it doesn't make life louder or brighter, it makes it clearer, quieter, heavier, in a way that feels real. I'm 78 years old. This is how it turned out.